Teachers, what is the most delusional thing you've seen a parent do? Story 1. Preschool teacher. One year I had a set of twins with some serious behavioral problems. They wouldn't do anything we wanted them to. They participated in nothing and did only what they wanted to when they wanted to do it. Cleanup time? My dad says I shouldn't have to clean because I'm not a girl. What the hell? Did he really just say that? Yes, every single class. There were many conferences with the parents. The dad insisted kids were fine and they could do what they wanted. We'd explain that in order for us to teach them anything, including how to behave appropriately in a classroom setting before kindergarten next year, he'd have to tell them to listen to us. But he felt that his 4-year-old boys shouldn't listen to any woman, including their own mother, who had so little control over them that she never took them out of the house, which she reported they had completely destroyed. Their behavior was so terrible that we assumed they were on the spectrum before we spoke with the dad, and maybe they were. But mostly they've been raised to believe that women are never in a position of authority. And the worst part? They had a younger boy and another on the way. That poor woman. Her husband had completely hobbled her ability to raise them while leaving her to raise them alone while he worked. They told the director they were moving back to the Middle East just before she kicked them out for being utterly unmanageable. Well, it looks like one woman managed to show she could hold a position of power. Good on her for taking a stand. Respect and leadership are not gendered roles. Anyone can be a leader. Anyone can be subservient. I feel sorry for that woman in that marriage and that family. She probably has to deal with her love for the kids while having to deal with these very old and outdated values. Story 2. I hate to be a not me but. My friend is a 6th grade teacher. The way her middle school works is that she's in charge of a class of about 25 kids. She teaches them a few subjects, I know math, science, reading, and spelling, and then switches with her partner teacher to teach his kids the same subjects while he does social studies and whatever other subjects there are with her class. Not too long ago, kids in her class began to complain that things were missing from their desks. They were able to keep the things they didn't need for their lessons in the other room in their desks. Whole lunches turned up missing, all in the vicinity of this one boy. Her partner eventually caught him with something that was reported missing, and the principal made him empty his pockets. He was stealing everything. They were lenient with him, only sternly warning him not to do it any longer. The next time, they called the school security officer in to speak with him and sent a note home to his parents. The third time, they gave him ISS and called his parents for a conference. His dad apparently flipped out on the phone, saying that his son did nothing wrong and that he knew what they were doing. Turns out the boy was telling his parents that his teachers were planting the stolen items on him to get him in trouble. And his parents believed him. My poor friend is so frustrated, even though he's not technically in her class, and has been trying to get him and his parents to speak with a social worker. But it's been to no avail. There used to be a time when the teacher was more believed than the kid. Yes, I know there have been instances of teachers abusing that power. I'd like to take a look at what kind of statistics there are about that. I'm almost willing to bet that it's certain that those instances of teachers abusing their power like that are very slim. I know we're supposed to love our kids, but believing that he's being conspired against like this? A bit far-fetched, don't you think? Story 3. I'm not a teacher, but have got to share the type of character that my friend's mom is. She is the worst human being I've ever had the displeasure to meet. She is rude, demanding, controlling, and borderline abusive to her family. We'll call her Psycho Mom. Background knowledge. A door does not open in my friend's house without an announcement going off over the loudspeaker and a notification going to Psycho Mom's phone. There are cameras in and around the house. Psycho Mom can access anything and everything on my friend's phone before he even has access to it. My friend's phone is tracked and his car is tracked. My friend is an Eagle Scout, is a distinguished honor student, is in the top 20 of a 600-student class, is a leader in both his chorus classes, has gotten lead parts in the past 3 plays, and has honestly never done anything worth making his mom this suspicious of him. My friend's girlfriend moved here from the UK a few years ago. In Psycho Mom's words, That party girl is only dating you so that she can get pregnant and get a green card. She volunteered at our school's post-prom event. Between prom and post-prom, our group was all changing at one of our friends' houses. On the way to post-prom, they got stuck on a red light because he and his girlfriend showed up literally 2 minutes later than the rest of the group. He lost his car for a few days and was grounded. That spring is wound up just a bit too tight. There is going to come a time where that spring is going to be let go, and the damage that that's going to cause will be devastating. You don't hold that much control over someone without something going wrong. It sounds like this kid is really an amazing student and a great person. I hope that they find some sort of way to deal with this. I really hope that they find a way out of it and away from this person. Story 4. A few of us guys crashed over at a friend's house a few weeks ago. This house was down the street from British Girlfriend, so Psycho Mom is already getting worked up about it. Make sure your phone is charged. If you don't answer when I call, there will be hell to pay. Wake up at 4 in the morning to his phone ringing. She's been trying to reach him for 2 hours straight with calls and texts saying things like, "You better not be over at that party girl's house. I hope you enjoyed spending the night at a friend's house because it's never happening again. And come home right now or I will burst into that house and get you and it will be very embarrassing for you." For my friend's entire life, he's had a long, blonde, girlyish, past-the-shoulders kind of haircut. He's always hated it and always has wanted a buzz. But Psycho Mom will not allow it for some reason. One day after school, he leaves his phone at school to avoid being tracked and goes with a friend to get his hair cut for a theater production that's based in the 1950s, where his hairstyle wouldn't have worked. He's grounded for a week, which isn't even the worst of it. Psycho Mom starts texting British Girlfriend to try and convince her to tell him how much she absolutely hates his haircut because he might listen to his girlfriend. Psycho Mom posts all over social media and tells anybody who will listen for the next few weeks how ashamed she is of her kid, and how she can't even look at him with his terrible haircut. I teach elementary French, and as a treat at the end of the month, the kids get to watch a little bit of a movie in French. So I sent home a notice to parents to let them know this was the plan, and give them an idea of some of the shows I was thinking about. One of them was Beauty and the Beast. Shortly after I sent this notice home, one of the parents emailed me to tell me they were fine with most of the choices, but didn't want their daughter watching Beauty and the Beast. There was no explanation for why. I've been told by the other teachers that this girl's parents are kind of bizarre, and have heard a couple of stories in the few months I've been there. They are a highly religious family and don't want their children exposed to anything they deem inappropriate. Story 5. I teach 3rd grade. One of my kids, who's made A's on nearly everything, had gotten an 87 on a creative writing assignment. The morning of the day after I passed the papers back to them, she came up to me looking a little embarrassed and said her mom was going to come in around noon to talk to me about the grade. Past teachers had warned me that this girl had a helicopter mom, but I hadn't had any bad experiences with her yet, and we were a couple of months into the school year. Sure enough, right as the lunch bell was about to ring, the door bursts open and in storms helicopter mom. She looked furious. I could tell she was about to lay into me in front of my entire class, but then a piercing metallic shriek hit my ears. One of her rotors had clipped the wall and she just started falling apart and spinning out of control. A rotor flew across the room and unalived 2 and injured 3. And then she crashed into our terrarium and burst into flames, unaliving the class's pet frog Scooter. And shrapnel from the wreckage peppered the front row of kids. Story 6. I'm still a student teaching, but when I was in high school, students could rent a MacBook for the school year. You filled out a contract and weren't allowed to replace certain parts or install certain things. Naturally, one kid I was acquainted with who constantly bragged about getting around the rules got caught and was to have his school-issued laptop revoked for the rest of the school year, as well as be suspended for a short amount of time. His mom stormed in, made the assistant principal cry in her surrounded-by-windows office, and the kid showed up 2 days later with his laptop back. It wasn't a question if the kid could afford a laptop without the school's reduced rental price. He had numerous desktop computers and a personal laptop. After reading this story, I really honestly don't know whose side to be on here. Was the teacher overreacting and just reading too much into a kid's bragging words? Was this mom just too willing to believe what the kid said? What about the laptop? Did they find anything wrong with it? Did they find any programs that weren't supposed to be on there? Story 7. My first parent-teacher conference, 2005. Mom brings a large cardboard box full of hand lotion and a doctor's note for her student. Doc's note states that students are to use the restroom each period as needed. A large cardboard box full of hand lotion is for my son's insatiable desire to self-stimulate. A side note. 6 months into my first year of teaching, this kid asks to use the restroom. Allow him. While in the restroom, he scales a 10-foot cinder block wall into ceiling tiles and tries to cross over to the women's restroom. He uses a pencil to poke holes in the ceiling tiles so he can peek into women's restroom stalls. Eventually, his weight causes him to fall through the tiles, and he impacts the support walls of 2 stalls. End result? Broken clavicle and humerus, separated shoulder, torn ligaments in knee, and severe concussion. After incident, student is expelled from school and enrolls in outdoor program. Story 8. I once saw the parent of a football player have a stern talk with a coach because his son wasn't the starting inside linebacker. Part of what made it delusional is that his son was starting at outside linebacker, so he was already getting more playing time than the 30 or so other players that didn't have a starting role. What made it even more delusional was that the guy's son was essentially playing inside linebacker anyways. We ran a 40-base defense under the look of a 4-3 defense. That means that before every play, our strong safety moves into the outside linebacker role and one of the outside linebackers becomes an inside linebacker. Too long didn't read? Dude complains that his son isn't a starting inside linebacker. His son is a starting linebacker. Story 9. I used to be a high school teacher's assistant during the summer. These summer classes were usually taken by students who failed them the first time around. One mother came up to me at the end of the semester demanding to know why her daughter had failed math a second time. I told her that it was because she spent too much of her time socializing and texting on her phone during class. At which point, the mom exploded, saying that I was lying because her daughter didn't even have a phone, and that I was grading unfairly, and that her daughter shouldn't be having such a hard time with math, etc. Turns out, the daughter bought a cell phone off a friend and got a pay-as-you-go contract behind her mother's back after she got her phone taken away the first time she failed math. Alright, I don't think this is so much on the mother here. The mom really didn't have any reason to believe that her daughter was doing bad because of talking on the phone. How was she to know her daughter did this stuff behind her back? This one really needs a follow-up. Did the mom get proof that the girl had a phone behind her back? What was the follow-up when they found that out? Story 10. My mother was a lunch lady when I was in kindergarten, and there was a girl who was morbidly obese in my class. She couldn't walk from the classroom to the lunchroom without getting sick from the physical activity. My mom and some of the other lunch ladies started tweaking the menu when she got in line to have the healthier options out for her to eat. Her mother caught wind of this and started packing her lunch, always with cookies and Twinkies and soda. I don't know how as a parent you can allow your child to live like that, to encourage it. I'm not saying don't give your kids treats, but how in the hell do you let it get to that point? Story 11. I worked for a socialization program for children with special needs. I had a mother of a fantastic young boy with severe autism and no verbal skills argue publicly with my boss that he needed to be moved to a class with the highest functioning kids. She told us her baby had nothing wrong with him. He's a wonderful kid, but he couldn't handle that much stimuli. He clearly struggled to be able to communicate. I think a fair amount of parents whose children have special needs are really in denial, and to the detriment of their children's development. Story 12. My wife teaches. I'm her assistant. I help with grading papers, posting grades, classroom help with computers. She teaches special ed, mostly with inner city children who have never been able to learn to read. She can teach anyone to read. 3 years ago, she was working with a boy who was in 7th grade and unable to read. After a few months, she got him up to 3rd grade level. Then his mama came into school very angry. "You're going to stop this stuff. I'm going to lose his learning disability check if they find out he can read. Mind your own damn business." That last part, I kind of skipped over the way they wrote how this person talks. That's so unfortunate that this woman was putting the check over her kid's needs. Granted, I don't know their situation, but wow, why did they need this check? What was it going towards? Story 13. I was working with a class of gifted high school students taking a summer course. During a field trip, one of my students needed to go to a doctor's appointment and would be picked up early by her parents. The only way to contact the group on the field trip was my cell phone, so the parents got my personal number. In the week left in the summer course, I received 23 text messages and 15 calls asking why their 10th grade daughter had not called them back. Story 14. I'm not a teacher, but I'm sure if the teacher in question was on this site, my story would be here. My primary school taught Chinese. My mom is so staunchly racist toward Asians that she refused to let me participate in these lessons. The school said they weren't going to employ someone to sit in a classroom and supervise me while all the other students had the Chinese lesson. So my mom did it. Once a week throughout grades 1 to 7, all my classmates would go to another classroom for their lesson, while I would stay in my classroom with no one but my mom. Story 15. My mother worked as a librarian at the high school I went to. My freshman year, she somehow changed my class schedule to all senior classes. Algebra 2, Spanish 2, etc. I had never taken the first-year classes. After a week of total chaos, went to my guidance counselor to get my classes changed. He did not know how she did this. Her excuse was, he does not imply himself, and was sure I could have passed these classes. Curse my life. Moms always want to believe that their kids are capable of doing great things. She needed to temper her view with a little realism here. Was this kid slacking off in the other classes? Was he actually doing okay? Story 16. A boy took a picture of a special needs girl's butt because her jeans rode down a bit. He passed the picture around the school, which resulted in lots of bullying directed toward the girl. When the boy was suspended, her father appealed the suspension, blamed the school for targeting his child, and threatened to sue. This resulted in the best line I've ever heard from a school principal. Fine, the moment I hear from your lawyer is the moment you'll be reading the charges I'll be filing on your student. Story 17. Principal here. Had a kid who was gifted and who almost unalived at birth. Mom felt super guilty, and as a result, she wouldn't dare do or say anything to upset him. So the kid ran the show. Kid got other kids and teachers in trouble by lying, then would tell his mom some story and she would come sailing into his defense. Even said her son would never lie. Anyway, the year in my school was a gong show. After that year, the kid convinced his mother the whole school was full of bullies, mean teachers, and an incompetent principal. They withdrew him and put him in a private school. Good move. Story 18. I used to teach children's art classes. One girl turned up and shyly said, "Hi," to me. Her mom got cross with her and sternly made her go back outside so that she could re-enter the room and make an impression. The girl came back and gave me a nice big fake smile and wave and loudly said, "Hello." The mother also spent way too much time making sure I realized that they lived in a very rich suburb and went to a very elite private school. Let this kid be. If you are so worried about your kid making a good first impression, practice with them beforehand at least. Don't embarrass them in front of everybody like that. I'm pretty sure that girl got teased because her mom was such an interfering influence. Kids are still figuring themselves out at this point. If they're shy, let them be shy. Story 19. My mom is a principal in a not very nice area and has had to deal with some pretty tough parents. A couple of months ago, some girl beat the hell out of another girl in the cafeteria. When my mom brought her down to the office, she threatened to fight my mom. So my mom called her mom. Her mom then came in and also threatened to fight her. No fighting occurred. Police were called, though. Story 20. I was a para in a special ed classroom. We had one boy with autism who was 9 years old. His mom told me one day that it hurts him to poop in the toilet. She would let him poop in his pants. Then she would put the poop in the toilet and his underwear in a bucket of bleach water. He used the bathroom by himself no problem all the time at school. He was clearly not in pain pooping on the toilet. I'm sorry, what? It sounds like the mom obviously has some sort of delusion about their kid. I'm sure this story got out and this kid got bullied to no end. Clearly he could handle bathroom duties by himself. Maybe he just had no way to stand up to his mom like this. Story 21. At a statewide convention for middle schoolers that included a talent show. Basically, a bunch of middle school kids from mostly rural areas doing magic tricks, singing, playing an instrument, signing a song in ASL, etc. Mother tells her daughter that there might be talent scouts there. Daughter freaks out and bombs her talent. Seriously? What talent scout hits up middle school talent shows? Story 22. I caught a girl cheating by writing formulas on her hand. She told the dean and her mother that was how she studied and she had forgotten to wash it off. Mother believed her and set up a conference with me to explain. Dean did not, and she got a Saturday school. Think Breakfast Club. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.